Hello minions, Wheezy here. Today I wanted to bring you this relatively short, by Wheezy standards, video talking about what I consider to be the best launcher in Battlefield 4. And that is the FGM-172 SRAW, which is the short-range assault weapon, apparently, is the official designation for that acronym. But I haven't spent extensive time with every launcher in Battlefield. I have spent some time with every launcher in Battlefield, and the SRAW has far and away come out as the best. And this clip is the first one that'll illustrate a little bit of flexibility, because those of you who don't know, it's guided, but there you can see you can fire it unguided. If you drop the targeting reticle, you can actually dumb fire this rocket launcher. So it's not a fly-by-wire, but it's basically a laser-guided launcher, which means that wherever you hold the crosshair is where the missile is going to go. And that's useful for hitting targets at longer range and being precise about targets and when they're moving. It's not quite fire and forget, but it does give you the ability to get good hits on targets when they're moving around and when they could otherwise potentially break a lock. And this does not allow them to use countermeasures to break the lock. So that makes it very useful. You can dumb fire it, you can laser fire it, and another advantage of the laser fire, and one of the primary reasons why I enjoy this so much, is because of this. Kaboom. It is also a very effective anti-helicopter weapon. And I say anti-helicopter because you know, unless you're way better than I am, which is entirely possible, this is going to be pretty ineffective against jets. Unless you get a laser lock, but a helicopter that's not moving very much, or that's hovering, kind of like that one was, just getting a good laser designation on it can be relatively straightforward, and with some practice is pretty effective. And here's a good example of waiting for a good shot. So I could have just launched a missile there and tried to keep the laser lock, but this thing's moving perpendicular to me and ducking behind cover, and so what I'm doing is waiting for it to have a good stable shot, which means it's either coming directly at me or it's hovering somewhat in the air. So there I get it during a turn, so it's basically hovering, and that makes it much easier to hit. And I really enjoy the flexibility of this weapon, because it's just, as a launcher, it's so useful in so many situations. If you get a Stinger, if you get you know, a dedicated anti-air weapon, then you're kind of defenseless against armor. If you get a dedicated anti-armor weapon, you're kind of defenseless against air. And to an extent, you could use RPGs against helicopters like you could in Battlefield 3, you know, just by getting a good lead on them and anticipating what they're going to be. But this is much more effective than just, because you can dumb fire it like an RPG, so you gain that advantage, but you can also guide it, which is useful for hitting these helicopters at a distance. You could not really hit a shot like this with an RPG, and watch this shot. You cannot do this with an RPG. So this is part of why I say you want to be careful if your target's moving, because even if you keep a good laser lock, if the target's moving, the missile has to change positions, and it will do some cool little loops around your target. But it's just such an effective weapon to use that I just love it, and I recommend you use it in all of your anti-vehicle roles, because one of the main advantages that some weapon systems have that would make me choose them over this would be if they were fire and forget. But most of the ones in Battlefield aren't. And this one, as you'll see here, if someone is laser designated a target, this is also fire and forget. So in addition to being laser guided and dumb fired and being good against ground and air targets, it's also good against laser designated targets and is completely fire and forget. Unlike some weapons like the Javelin, which is completely wrong for the Javelin in general, but you can't just fire and forget it. You have to maintain the lock the entire time. So this gives you more options, more ability to utilize cover, and it even allows you to take out equipment. So this is like someone laser designated just a spawn beacon. So some sniper somewhere called out a spawn beacon, and it'll take those out too. So the FGM-172 SRAW is far and away the best launcher, in my opinion, in Battlefield 4. And if you're using anything else, you're probably doing it wrong, unless you really want to get a jet out of the sky. But jets are so nerfed in this game anyway; they're really not a threat to you. So run the SRAW, and you will get things like this, where you get a victory. That was a lame way to end this video. But I don't care, because I'm Wheezy, bitches. Talk to you later.